making hundreds of bloodstains, thousands of bloodstains myself, bloodstain patterns, and going to training classes, seen it at scenes. So with all of that, looking at that right away, I can tell that, it's not a contact stain, it's not a transfer, it's not something that fell onto a horizontal surface, it's a vertical surface because there was enough blood to flow down that wall under the influence of gravity. And then you have to look at the location. So if you want to go back to that picture that you had looking at the stairs, okay. So some of those stains, like the one straight on above the door, that one right there, you got to think about how did that get there? So if you have a stain that's in an area that could be touched, you have to consider if it's a contact stain or a transfer. But that stain is in an area that most people could not reach out and touch. So then you got to start thinking of mechanism, how that actually got there. If it's a beating or an assault, blood can be projected out with force. So the force of the beating is going to create impact spatter, and it's going to hit walls, ceilings, and odd locations. So say you have all these stains and no body, right? So say you have all these stains and no body, right? So say you have all these stains and no body, right? What do you do then? Because in this case, you obviously have people with stab wounds and you have a knife sheath. But I've had cases where you have multiple blood stains and no body. So then you don't have that context to help you identify how these stains were created. So then you're just relying completely on your training and education and experience. So a lot of it is documentation, and then later, once you have a little more information, you can start kind of piecing together or ruling out different type of mechanisms that created these patterns and stains.
And so as a reminder to you too, right, we have two victims here on the second floor.
Mm-hmm.
That stairwell we were just looking at was right here. Then you got the half wall. And so there was a victim that was laying right here in this room. So let's say you get up the stairs, you turn the corner, and you see that. Does that change how you might have just saw this now or no?
How a cast-off stain would be created and get in that location. Like if there was a dead body right in front of the top of the stairwell with stab wounds, it would be very easy to say, oh yeah, that cast-off stain was created, while that person is actively being stabbed or resisting or fighting back. But, with that body not being in close proximity to where those cast-off stains or multiple stains are created or located, then you have to generate some in that location. Like if there was a dead body right in front of the top of the stairwell with stab wounds in that location, like if there was a dead body right in front of the top of the stairwell with stab wounds, later, once you have a little more information, you can start kind of piecing together or ruling out different type of mechanisms that created these patterns and stains.
You awakened at somewhere between 4 and 4:20 a.m.
Around 4 to 4:20, woke up out of nowhere. I heard her playing music.
How do you know it was her? I guess I should ask that.
I think it's because I heard her voice and she's probably singing. I knew for sure it was her when she walked upstairs and she said someone's here. That's how I knew for sure that it was Kaylee.
And I can hear Kaylee and Murphy dancing because I can tell it's her voice and that it's Murphy because he's barking.
All I heard was I heard her go upstairs. Like, okay, I'm gonna go to sleep now because she's going upstairs.
And you heard who go upstairs?
Kaylee and the dog Murphy.
And upstairs to the very top?
Yeah, that's where her room is.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden I heard her walking up, I heard her scream, and she ran upstairs because she saw someone. That's what I'm pretty sure she said. Someone's here, and she screamed and just ran downstairs. And I called for her name, but I jumped up and locked my door because I was so scared.
And then I hear her go upstairs because you can hear everything. And I heard her say, there's someone here, and I thought she ran downstairs. And then I jumped up and locked my door because I didn't know what else to do. Yeah, when she goes out, I can hear her go upstairs. And then I think she's in her room and she says that someone's here, and I can tell she's scared and she runs downstairs. I don't know if she made it past the stairs or if it was in the living room. Yeah, I heard her running super fast down the stairs. Kaylee and Logan are both upstairs. They don't share rooms.
I'm usually the one that locks the sliding door at night. I don't know if I locked it that night. I don't believe I locked it.
So you awakened at somewhere between 4 and 4:20 a.m.
Around 4 to 4:20.
Oh yeah, I heard Murphy bark a little, and then I heard the pong table that was in our family room. It's just a table that was in our family room kind of moved.
Was that before or after he heard?
It was all kind of all at once. I feel
all at once?
Yeah.
Shortly right after you heard Murphy bark, the beer pong table get bumped,
Yeah.
and you heard the firecracker sparkler.
Yeah. It was all
Was that
kind of
also
jumbled.
kind of when? That's what.
And I
did
think
you
I
pick
heard
up and
Kaylee
call?
playing music too,
Okay,
dancing with Murphy.
but right after you heard Murphy bark, the pong table, and the sparkler, that's when you called.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Listen to Pavarotti. Can I be your superhero?
Hey, good afternoon, members. And you know what's interesting? I was watching that interview that Birdie did with the crime scene expert. And man, I tell you what, every now and again, Birdie will really shock you and do something really, really sound. But some of the things that he pointed out is the things that seems to get everybody sideways. Like, for instance, there should be a body laying at the top of the stairs. And we all know, based on the DNA results, that body should be Kaylee's. And that's what's thrown everybody in this case off. I do believe, this is all my humble opinion, of course, but y'all know that I believe that Kaylee was in the living room with Murphy, just like Dylan said. She hears probably Maddie being attacked upstairs. She walks up the stairs, confronts the attacker, screams, "Someone is here." As she's running back down the stairs, the assailant's chasing her. 2 assailants come through the back door. They head in to attack Xana and Ethan as another assailant comes up from the first floor, blunt forces Kaylee. The person that's chasing Kaylee obviously must get at least 1 or 2 stabs on her to get the cast off with the mixture. Then they carry Kaylee back up to the bedroom, finish attacking Kaylee, and then they all leave. And it all happens very quickly, and that's what I'm going to start really diving into in this one with y'all before I finish it up and release it to the public. So I would like your thoughts, but I have put a lot of thought and a lot of time and effort into this. And one thing that I always try to do is verify my interpretation of the events and see if it checks itself with the other evidence. Because if you can check your events with other evidence and a timeline, and if everything works, then I believe you're going to get really close to the truth. It's kind of like in math. If you go 2 + 2 = 4, you can check your work. You can take 4, divide it by 2, and if it equals 2, it starts with the 2, you got your math checked. Same thing with this. And here's what I'm going to point out. You got this is my timeline of events. Start at 3:45. Gun rack guy racks his gun. He's on probably not a phone. I'm guessing probably a walkie-talkie with somebody. And then at 3:46, strangely enough, we got this DoorDash driver driving into the neighborhood, which is the biggest anomaly in this case. And then at 3:50, gun rack guy seen on the Queen Road apartment camera walking toward 1330 Linda Lane, walking towards the King Road residence. At 3:53, we've got a tan vehicle that pulls out of the neighborhood. At 3:56, we've got the white car that pulls into the neighborhood. We think it's the white car. Could be that silver car. I'm still not totally convinced that the 356 car is the same car as the 404 car. At 3:59, we know the DoorDash is delivered. The message is sent. And I'll talk a lot more about that in another time, because that's where everything is very strange in this scenario. But we know that between 3:59 and the thud that we hear at 4:17 with all the screams, there is this empty time period right here. When we listen to Dylan's statement, everybody gets the pretty much at 4 a.m. thing, but we know this thing did not happen at 4 a.m. But if you listen to Oliver's statement, she says sometime between 4 and 4:20. And I believe that she's telling the truth when she says this. I believe her lies start exactly after 4:21. That's when all of her lies start. But when we look at this timeline of events, things that we know we can verify between 3:59 and 4:17, we know that at some point Xana must have retrieved the DoorDash order from the front porch. She must have taken it to the kitchen because there is still DoorDash bags with her name on it in the kitchen. I didn't want to believe it for a long time, but now I have to because of the fries in the bedroom. But you had an empty bag of DoorDash in the kitchen. You had a empty fry container, and you had a fry container on top of the microwave. We believe it was all from that night. So it tells me that Sometime between 3:59 and 4:17, Xana retrieved the DoorDash, took it to the kitchen, made a plate, took it to her bedroom, and ate it pretty much, or was almost done eating it when this happened. I mean, that's going to take some time right there. During this time, the 404 white car pulls into the neighborhood and starts doing the weird circling, I believe looking for the 350 guy. I believe that's exactly what he's doing, or they're doing. We know that the white car parks at 408. Now there's a timeline between 408 when the car parks and the next thing that we can completely verify, which is 417 and 30 when the screams are heard and the thuds are heard. We know that at 417:48, Murphy starts barking outside. Before that, you can faintly hear him barking inside, but at 417:48, Murphy starts barking outside. This is why I can't believe that people go through this stuff and go, well, that's not Murphy barking. Nothing happened at this time frame. The text messages are made up. Everything actually corroborates itself if you really look at the evidence and you don't try to change everything about the case. It's obviously Murphy barking because of the events that are happening, and he's very close to the camera. And I put out the video yesterday that, I mean, it's definitely very, very plausible that's Murphy barking. But that's 417:48. Then at 419:07, we know the doors close on the white car because you can hear it on the 1112 camera, and it's verified with the police reenactment of it. At that same time, Bethany makes the first call and tells Dylan, according to her testimony in the grand jury, that she thought she heard something. And when you listen to Bethany's statements, everybody wants to take Bethany so literally. I believe that what she says is true. And if you listen close, like I just showed you in that video, it's the order of everything that she's remembering, she's not sure of. She thinks everything's happening all at once. So she hears a boom, sees a flash, hears Murphy barking. She thought she heard Kaylee in the living room with Murphy. And she hears the pong table being hit. She just doesn't remember it in a way where she can say, I heard this, and this. So you have to kind of take it in context. But that's when the first call was made from Bethany to Dylan, which goes in line with everything that we've looked at so far. It makes sense to me that she would make that call. Now, you can ask all day, why didn't Dylan call Bethany? Well, I think Dylan was in there freaking out. And I think when Bethany called her, it initiated some calls. And then at 4:20 and 28 seconds, Dylan calls Bethany back. And according to her grand jury testimony, that's when she told her she's seen the man in the mask. 4:20 and 47 seconds, the white car speeds away. And then at 4:24, the Sport U from the Queen Road Apartments pulls out of the neighborhood as well. So this is my major timeline of events. But what I want to really dial in is how long did this atrocity actually take? And if I don't do it, nobody else is going to do it because nobody else is going to look at this thing the way that I do. So we're going to zoom in a little bit further now. Just taking the time from when the DoorDash delivery is made at 3:59 up until the time when we hear the screams and the thud on the 1112 camera. And we've already established during this time that Xana must have retrieved the DoorDash and took it to the kitchen, made a plate, took it to her bedroom, and at least began to eat it. The white car pulls in at 404, circles, I believe looking for the gun rack guy. The white car parks at 408. But this is what I believe happens based on all the evidence. I believe that at 417, the person that has gone through the third floor slider in Kaylee's room enters Maddie's room and attacks Maddie starting at 417. And I believe that attack lasts 20 seconds. And here's where I'm getting this information. We know from the released expert report that Madison's autopsy showed stab and incised wounds of the scalp, face, and neck 13, stab wounds of the chest 5, incised wounds of the upper extremities 10. A total of 28 strikes. Now I'm going to use ASGET to estimate the time on this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. So to get the time frame of the crime, I actually have to work forwards and backwards. With the attack on Maddie occurring in 20 seconds, it starts a round of events. We know that from the evidence, we believe Kaylee goes upstairs and confronts the attacker on Maddie and then runs back down the stairs as the attacker chases her. So if the attack happens within 20 seconds, I've got to work back from the screams and thuds. That puts the estimated time that Maddie is being attacked at 4:17. That means at 4:17 and 20 seconds is when Kaylee interrupts the attack on Maddie and then runs back downstairs. And that gives about 10 seconds for the attackers to start attacking Ethan and Xana and for Kaylee to be struck in the living room and then them carry her back upstairs and continue to attack her. Now, here's where we have to dive in even further, because how long does the attack last on Ethan and Xana and Kaylee? Now, when we go to Kaylee, we know that she had stabbing incised wounds to the scalp, face, and neck, 24 plus. Stabbing inside wounds of the chest, 11, and the upper extremities, 3. That's 38 plus total. So I'm going to account for 2 of those happening in the living room because of the cast off with the mixture. That leaves 36 plus total blows. How long would it take according to Asget? Now, Ethan, stab and incised wounds, scalp, neck, and face, 4. Stab wound to the chest, 1. Incised wounds of the upper extremities, 6. Stab and incised wounds of the lower extremities, 6. 17 total. How long would it have taken? Then we have Xana. Xana, we've got 23 stab and incised wounds of the scalp, face, and neck. 7 in the chest, 4 in the abdomen, 3 in the back, 25 in the upper extremities, and 5 incised wounds of the lower extremities. 67 total. How long would it take? But you see, it's right here where everybody will miss the importance of what we're discussing. The screams and thuds are heard starting at 4:17 and 30 seconds. That's when we estimated that Kaylee was struck. Xana and Ethan are being unalived. And the longest one of all of them would have been Xana at 53 seconds. But you don't do the time frame as Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan and then stretch it out, because they're all happening at the same time. The 53 seconds it would take for the perpetrator to commit all the wounds on Xana is more than enough time for the other two perpetrators to have committed all of the wounds on Ethan and Kaylee and brought Kaylee back upstairs. 4:17, Murphy starts barking at 4:17:48. All three are unalive by 4:18:25, and this is how it looks. All three are unalive by 4:18:25. Kaylee's attacker was done a few seconds before that, so they have time to get out of the house. At 4:19:07, we hear the doors shut on the white car. That's when Bethany makes the first call to Dylan saying she thought she heard something. Some of them have already left. At least one, if not two, are still in the house though, from 4:18:25 until 4:20:20 when Dylan sees the man in the mask. That's almost 2 minutes that the perpetrator had to do any type of remediation that they did, taking clothes off, making sure that they didn't leave any footprints or whatever. And then Dylan calls Bethany, says she's seen the man in the mask, at 4:20:28. So that's 2 minutes and 3 seconds that they had for remediation. The white car speeds away, so it's obviously not the one that she's seen in the house. That means the one she's seen in the house is the one you see get in the Sport U and leave at 4:24. The timeline of events line up perfectly with everything that we have as far as evidence in this case. The problem people have is trying to make this one or two perpetrators when it's absolutely four perpetrators. And when you add four and you see that it's happening at the same time, it decreases the time that it took for them to commit the crime. We know now there's multiple perpetrators. There's all the evidence of it. So when you add multiple perpetrators, it decreases the time needed to do the crime and any type of remediation afterward. Let me know your thoughts. Please watch this one several times until you grasp everything that I've put in this, and tell me what's missing so that I don't leave it out when I put this out to the public. Thank you very much for being a member, and you have a great day.